All right, hello again. So in this video, we're going to go over Visual Studio Code, using Visual Studio Code for web development. So Visual Studio Code, or VS Code for short, is an app that you can use to make web pages, which we'll use in the class or classes. So don't confuse it with Visual Studio, which is another app by Microsoft. So Visual Studio Code is now owned, I guess, by Microsoft. It used to be independent, and they kind of bought it. It's free. Don't worry about that. But there is another app called Visual Studio, I think, that Microsoft has that is different. So it's Visual Studio Code. So make sure you got the right one. So it's pretty much the standard now. There are a lot of other apps that you can use to do editing code. You can even use a plain text editor, like TextEdit on a Mac, or Word, not Word, but any plain text editor works. But the downside is, then you have to memorize everything as far as HTML, CSS, all that fun stuff. You are going to be learning that, obviously, in classes, in the class and in classes, but it makes it easier if the developing platform, the app that you're using, can help you out, right? So that's what VS Code does, is it helps you out. It completes code for you, suggests things like that. So it's a free code editor created by Microsoft. I don't know if it was created by Microsoft, but whatever. It's perfect for web development. It is lightweight, fast, has lots and lots of extensions. So lots of people write extensions that make it extended, give it other abilities and things that you can do, which we're going to talk about in this video here. So some key features of it: it's free, like I said, open source, means that people can work on it. There are people that work on it all the time. There are updates all the time. You might see videos where it looks different than it does when you open it, because it does change all the time. But the basics are the same, or pretty much the same. It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It has syntax highlighting for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What is JavaScript? What does that mean? That means it will color some of the text for you, so you can kind of see what's going on a little bit easier and tell different parts of the code from other parts of the code. That'll make more sense once you start doing this more. It has a built-in file explorer. It handles files. You can move files in it. You can create files in it, that kind of thing. Has an integrated terminal to interact directly through a command line, which is typing. We're probably not going to do that a whole lot, but it does have that. It also has, like we said, smart code completion, or suggestions, basically. So you'll see that as well as we kind of go through this little demo. So I'm going to give you this page. Hopefully I gave you this page that you can play in while we look at this. Now, so there are some extensions that you probably want to add to VS Code. Sometimes it does incorporate features that are in extensions into VS Code itself. So sometimes they get obsoleted, or you don't need them anymore. But there are some that are pretty typical. There's a lot that are pretty typical. Depends what you're doing too. And it does handle other languages besides HTML and CSS and JavaScript. It handles tons of different things. So the three extensions that we're going to use today, or talk about today, are Live Server, which lets you launch a local web server so that you can preview your HTML files in a browser. So maybe you've seen this already or not, depending on where you're seeing this video, but you're going to edit the code in Visual Studio Code, and you look at it in a browser, right? So there's code, which is what the browser is reading, and then the browser is going to show you what the page looks like. If I look at this page here, if I just do Command-Option-U on a Mac, that's the actual code. That's what gets sent through the internet, right? Or in this case, it's on my computer locally. And then the browser takes that and renders this. So I think I'm on the wrong one here. Here we go. That's what Live Server does. So you'll see how that works in a second. You don't have to manually refresh. Used to be you would save your file and refresh all the time, and you don't really have to do that. The second one we're going to use or install is called Prettier. Prettier is just kind of formats the code to make it organized. It's easy to get code that looks kind of disheveled and messed up, like a bachelor apartment kind of thing. Things are everywhere and it's hard to see what's going on. Can't see the floor kind of thing. So it keeps your code clean and readable. That's for you and for anybody else that looks at your code, right? So sometimes you're working on things with other people, and if they open it and it's a mess, it's hard to figure out what's going on. There's also one called HTML CSS support. So it has better autocomplete suggestions when you're using CSS classes and IDs. And I don't expect you to know what I'm talking about yet, depending on when you see this video, but we'll play with it just a tiny bit in this video just to see what I'm talking about. But it basically will complete class names and other things that once you start them, because it's suggesting how to complete that piece of code, which helps you, makes you go faster and things like that. We're also going to skip down here for a second. We're also going to take a quick look at Emmet, which is it's sort of another language. It's a way to write HTML super fast, like it says. So you can type abbreviations, and this won't mean anything unless you've already done HTML before. But you can type abbreviations, and then Emmet will expand it and write some code. It saves you some characters. It can save you a lot of characters, actually. So we'll try that out just once or twice. There's a separate video for this. There's a separate video for a lot of this, actually. But this is just the VS Code part of this. There's also some shortcuts that we'll look at here at the end. So let's take a look at VS Code itself. So this is VS Code just out of the box. Oh, I should show you where you can download it. Here's where you can download it. You go look up Visual Studio Code, and then you can download it for free. And it senses I'm on a Mac, so it's showing me the Mac version, but there is a PC version, a Linux version. As I'm making this video, AI is taking over the world, and there is AI. There are ways to use AI within Visual Studio Code. We're probably not going to do that. I'll say probably, because it's possible that we will. But you guys are going to learn sort of the old school way to do it, writing it out. And that way you know what's going on under the hood, right? So it's always a good idea to know the fundamentals of the code and how things are made and things like that, even when you're going to use an AI to write code or help you with code, because you know what you can do, what you can't do, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. There are right now, at the time of this video, there are lots of ways to write code using AI, but the code is not always well written. Let's put it that way. And it's also, if you don't know what you can do or what is wise, then you're going to run into problems. So anyway, you can use, or it is possible to use Visual Studio Code or AI in Visual Studio Code. I want you guys to type everything kind of manually, kind of old school. It's a good way to learn. It's kind of a wax on, wax off thing, if you know that reference. Muscle memory, right? And that way you'll learn it. And then you can start using shortcuts and things. Like Emmet is a good example. In the videos, you'll see mostly I'm typing things out. I'm not using Emmet. But Emmet is something that you can definitely use to speed things up. But like I said, it's a different language and kind of shortcuts. I kind of want you guys to know what's going on without using shortcuts and AI and templates and stuff like that. That's the idea. That's why you're probably taking the class, probably. Anyway, so we'll use that is how you can download Visual Studio Code. There is a lot of documentation about it as well on this website. Just make sure you're downloading Visual Studio Code and not Visual Studio, which is what I mentioned earlier. Okay, so here is VS Code itself. I've already downloaded it, obviously, and I already have some extensions installed. I'm gonna show you how to find those as well. But this is the welcome screen. Here you can see any open editors, which is basically a file. You can also say you can open a folder, which we'll do in a second. You can also open a folder from here. You can create a new file from here. You can connect to things. You can do lots of things from this page. One thing that I always want you guys to do is to work within a folder. This is called a workspace, by the way. It's kind of a window, but it's kind of a workspace. You don't want to work with individual files usually. The reason for that is one of the things that Visual Studio does is it helps you with paths and how to connect files and make sure that the browser can find the image that you want to put on your page, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't want to have an individual file. You pretty much always want to have a folder that you're working out of. That's basically your website. So it's treating it like a web server. It is in some cases. So I've given you this folder, I hope, called Using Visual Studio Code. It might be a zip file. You can double click it to open it. Inside of there is this file that we're looking at, actually, VS Code demo. So what we're going to do is just open this folder and then use it to play around for a second with Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to click on Open Folder. I could do it. I do it this way a lot. I'm going to show you that way too. I'm going to go like this and just drag it into this window, and that opens it. That is one way to do it. I'm going to make a new window. Pretend I never did that. And I'll do it the other way, which is click Open here, and then navigate to that, which is actually taking me longer than just dragging it, but same effect there. So I just opened that folder in Visual Studio Code. So you've got some windows here. It might look slightly different depending on when you open it for the first time, but you have some tools here on the left, and we're gonna go through those. Here are the files. It says Open Editor. It already has this file open. I could close it, and then there's nothing open there. But I've got 2 files inside of that folder, so as soon as I click on one, it's an Open Editor. So yeah, that's the way that works. Up at the top, you can search. There's a Copilot. That's the AI, one of the AI helpers there. That's a little button there for that. I'm going to take you around the interface here as we're looking at this. Here you can customize the layout if you wanted to. Here you can toggle this sidebar. So that's this sidebar here with the Explorer. So that's this button right there. There's also this button right here, which is toggles the bottom panel, which has some, shows you problems, output, debugging, a lot of stuff we won't use, but some of it, I'm going to show you the problem one actually here in a second. Because one of the things that VS Code will do is spot problems for you. And then you can have an alternate sidebar over here, which basically opens Copilot in this case, but you could put other things there as well. Down at the bottom, you'll see the status bar. It'll tell you where you are in the code. See, it says line 87. So I may tell you guys that, like, hey, you got a problem on line 87. So that means every line of the code here has a line number. So that's how you can find things. This is the encoding. This is the language. This is the live server. I'm going to show you that in a second. And this is the prettier button. So both of these are kind of buttons that do things. I'll show you that in a second. Down here on the left, it'll show you errors and warnings actually right there. And maybe we'll try that out in a second. There's also a little gear icon with settings. So there's tons of settings that you can change inside of VS Code. Tons and tons and tons. You can change the default font size, for example. So I'll change that to 16 right now, actually. But I'll show you an easier way to change just the size of the text in a second. But there's tons of settings in there, and you see it kind of opens at its own tab. It is a tabbed interface here at the top. So there's settings. I'm just going to close it for a second. There's also an outline. So an outline is pretty cool. It shows you an outline of your page. This won't mean a lot to you unless you already know HTML, but you can click through here and sort of skip through the different parts of the page. These are all HTML tags. So if you haven't seen that yet, that's the formatting code used in HTML. They all start with this little opening and closing less than and greater than sign. That's a tag. There's an opening tag and there's a closing tag. Yeah, you'll see that in a different video, so I'm not going to go deep into that. We're just showing VS Code here. So that's the outline. You can click this little triangle to open it. There's also a timeline, which shows you different times that you saved the file. You can actually right-click on there and go to restore. There's different options in there. You can reveal the file in the Finder. You can restore. You can go to different versions of the file, basically. So that is under there. Don't use that a whole lot, but that is a possibility. So that's down there on the bottom, and then I showed you the settings button here. There's other ways to get to that. The top here, these tools here on the top left, the first one is the Explorer. That will open and close this panel that shows you your files. Usually you have that open, but if you don't have a lot of space, you're on a small monitor, you can open and close that. There's a shortcut for that, which is there's a shortcut for everything, of course. I'm doing Command B or Control B on a PC. That will open and close the Explorer. There's a search here. There's powerful search and replace. abilities inside of VS Code if you need to find something and change it somewhere. So that's there. This is a version control or source control. So Git is the most popular, probably, and it's also owned by Microsoft. Weird, cornering the market. But Git is a versioning control system. You might see a video for that. We don't really need it a whole lot for this, for the GDS 45 beginning class, but that is in there. You can use it if you want to. Probably don't need to at this level. The next one is run and debug. That is for more advanced programming and troubleshooting. You can set breakpoints. You can run through the code systematically and try to find errors and things. More for JavaScript and other languages. We're going to do, in the GDS 45 class, you're doing HTML and CSS, basically. Maybe a little bit of JavaScript, but that's what that is, run and debug. The next one is extensions. So that one we are going to use, at least a little bit at the beginning. That's how you can install extensions for VS Code to make it do things. So the three that I mentioned are right there. HTML, CSS support, live server, or did I get to that one? Yes, I did. Live server and prettier, right? So they're already installed because I've already installed this, obviously. I can click on the gear at any time if I want right here and disable that or uninstall it, but I'm not going to do that because you'll just have to watch me install it again. But that is how you can control your extensions. If you want to find an extension, you can just search for it. So if I go up here and start typing live, you'll see there's live server. So you can also type types of extensions and you'll get some different results for that. But if you ever found one that you wanted to install, you just click this handy blue install button. I'm not going to install that one, but you can click install and then it gets installed, and then it's running inside of VS Code sort of as an add-on or extension as it's called, right? I think that's pretty much it for extensions. You just basically search for ones that you want. There are a ton that people use depending on what they're doing. You can see all these that are grayed out are ones that I've installed that I'm not using right this second. One is for Tailwind, which is a type of coding where you're using utility classes and things. We do some of that in the intermediate class. Microsoft has their own live preview server, but that is probably not as popular as this one, which is kind of the one that everybody uses. Okay, so that is that. And then I'm gonna go back up to the Explorer and show you the files and just show you a tiny bit more on that since we're here. If you roll over in this window, sometimes this is not there until you roll over, but it seems to be showing right now. You can make a new file by clicking on that, right? There's a new file. I can do that. That way I can click here and make a new folder. I didn't give it a name, so it's not really there yet. I can also refresh the view if you add something from outside VS Code so it knows. I could make a folder here. Let's just call it test. Now there is literally a folder that I made on my computer inside of the using VS Code folder called test. I can move things in it. I can drag them around. And I'll move it back out. So you can interact with the computer straight through VS Code. You don't have to go out and do it that way. So you can do that. You can also, refresh the view there. And that's about it. So I'm going to have you guys, since I gave you this, I'm so nice, right? I'm going to click on VS Code Demo, or VS Code Demo Code. That's kind of redundant. And then that is the file that we're working on. You can see it over here. Let me make this a little bigger. Oh, I was going to show you how to make the text bigger. You can go to the settings and do that by default, but you can also, anytime, you can do, just like on a browser, you can do Command or Control minus to make it smaller. If you've got really good vision, you probably don't have that good a vision. And you can go Command or Control plus to make it bigger. Actually, everything gets bigger. The whole interface, everything, right? So I'm going to make this big enough so you guys can see. How about there? That's pretty big. And then I'm going to move this over a little bit. So I'm going to close this sidebar just so because it's taking up space. And then I can see over here on the right, I can drag through here and I can kind of skim through my code. So don't be intimidated by any of this. You guys are going to know how to do this by the end of the class if you don't already. But this is a web page. That's this web page, actually. I think. But what we're going to do is just go through. I'm going to show you what the extensions do. Try to do a couple little edits, and that's about it. So we're almost done, actually. Aren't you happy about that? Okay. So right now what I'm looking at is I could go like this. Here are my files. I'm sorry, I'm on another window here, on another monitor. Here are the files that we were just looking at. There's that test folder that I made, which I don't really need, but it's in there. So you can see that VS Code made that folder inside of there. So I can drag this from here straight into a browser window, and that's how I can open a browser window. Let me close the rest of these. So now that's open, but that's just looking at the static page inside of a browser. If I make a change here, this will not show up. So if I type something in here, add some code, this will just look the same. The old way that you would do that is you would do this, you would make a change, you'd type something, you'd hit save, then you'd go over here and you hit refresh, and then you'd see it. It's kind of slow and methodical, and it was the way we did things for 4,000 years. Not that long, but a long time. So instead, we're going to use the live server. So what I'm going to do is go down here to the bottom. Since I installed it already, I'm just going to click on where it says Go Live, which weirdly is the name of an old app from Adobe that used to make web pages. I wonder if they copied that. Probably not. I'm going to click on that. And then you see what it did. It opened the page again, but there is a difference. If I look up here, you see an IP address. So what this did is it activated a local server on the computer, and this is now basically a web server. This is not. This is just looking at that page statically. This is a live web server. So it's acting like that folder that we're in is a website, or like could be on the internet, right? So the other cool part about this is I'm going to go down here. Actually, I'll go up to the top where it says Visual Studio Code for web development. And one more thing before I do that, I'm going to go up here to File. And I want to make sure I show you guys this. And I'm going to turn on autosave. It's already on because I had it on. But if you click on File, then go to autosave and it's checked, that means it's on. That means that anytime I make a change, you don't have to work this way, but this is a faster way to do it. Anytime I make a change, it's going to save in about 1 second. You can set a delay. It's in the settings, but it's going to save. So that saves me the trouble of saving over and over and over again to see my changes. So it's going to save automatically. If you don't want to do that, you can turn it off and save manually. Same effect. But it's just a little bit faster. So I'm going to go over here and see where it says Visual Studio Code for web development. I'm going to put by Mark. Look at that. Crazy, huh? It just added it to the web page. And since it's in a live server mode, it pushed the new version to the server, and then now it says by Mark. That's not very good design, Mr. Mark, with that one word on the second line, but we're going to ignore that. So that's the benefit of live server right there. That is one of our helpful extensions right there. So that's how that works. I'm going to show you how Prettier works right now. So I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to tab over. So go to line 86 where it says color and just going to hit tab a couple times. So now it is formatted. So what Prettier does, it keeps the formatting nice and neat. So this is a typical way to type. You don't have to type anyway like this, but this is a nice way to have it formatted so that it's readable. It shows you all these blocks of code and things, and you don't know what these are yet. Maybe some of you do. Doesn't matter. But watch when I save here. I just did Command S explicitly, meaning Command or Control S, which means save, and it formatted the code. It put it back to a nice and neat kind of code. I didn't do much besides hit tab a couple of times and then save, and it went back. But if your code is super messy, it will clean it up and format it nicely so that it's readable by you. When you see an actual website, it might all be on one line. It's not made for readability, it's made for size. So it might not look that way. But that's what Prettier does for you. It makes it prettier. I guess that's why they called it that. The last one is HTML, or the next to last one, HTML CSS support. Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can read it. That one will suggest things to help you as far as completing CSS classes and things. You're like, what are you talking about, Mark? Well, let's try it. Let's go down to line 87 at the end here. I'm going to click and type. I'm just going to hit return a couple times and do a new style. So this probably means nothing to you at this point, but I'm going to type period and then the word red and then a curly brace or braces that are next to your P. So they're next to your P on your keyboard. And we're going to do this in other places as well. So don't freak out that you have to memorize this right now. But I typed dot red and then the left curly brace. One of the cool things that VS Code did was it typed the closing curly brace, the one on the right there. So there's one on the left, of course, and there's one on the right. It typed the right one and it put the cursor in the middle. So it's always trying to help. It's so polite and nice. So I'm going to hit return to make a separate line because that's typically how you write CSS, at least while you're authoring it. And I'm going to type color. So as soon as I start typing color, watch when I get to L. Whoops, I typed something else. As soon as I get to L, you'll see these are all CSS properties. Everything that starts with COL is highlighted. So I can either click on one of these or I can arrow to it and then hit return or enter, both work. And then it finishes that for me. And you're like, so what? It typed 3 characters. It will save you time because it will, prevent you from typing everything out. You don't have to type it all the way out. Now I'm going to type in, actually, let's just pick a color. These are all some colors. This is hex code. You'll learn about that later. I'm just going to pick this sort of red color. And you see it gives you a little color swatch. And even if you roll over the color swatch, it'll show you the color. You could change it here if you wanted to. But we're done. So this is called a CSS style. You'll learn that later. We'll talk much more about that. But we just made a CSS style. What does that mean? Well, we made a class actually. So we can apply that to something. So how do we apply that? So let's just go down to where it says, what is VS Code? Which is, where is it? Right here, right? We're going to turn that red. So what do? We're going to click inside of this H2 tag. This is called an H2 tag. It's a heading level 2. And again, don't worry about memorizing all this from this video. You'll see it in other videos. But I'm going to click inside of it after the 2. I'm going to hit space, and then I'm going to start to type class. So CL. As soon as I typed C, actually, I didn't have to type the L. I got class. So I'm going to hit return. It types the rest of it, class equals. Now it wants to know what class do I want to use. I want to use red. Red is the class we just made. I'm going to type R. As soon as I type the R, it knows like, oh, you only got one class that starts with R. It's red, so I'll just show that. So I'm going to hit return again. So I just typed class equals red with quotes around it and all that, but I only typed 4 characters, or hit the keyboard 4 times. I typed a C, enter, and then R and enter, and that's it. Instead of, what is that? Can you guys count faster than me? 10-ish, 9 something characters. You're like, who cares? But it will save you time. Oh, by the way, did you see? Look, it's red. You just did some CSS magic. Wow, that's impressive, huh? Okay. So that is this one, which is called HTML CSS support. So since it will look at your code and it looked at the code and said, oh, there's one called red, I'll see if that's what they want to use, and then we did. So there you go. I wanted to show you the problem output and then a quick thing with Emmet, and then we're done. So if I click up here before the C on color, right there, and hit put a dot there, now that is written incorrectly. So look what happened. It shows me in the problems pane of this area down here at the bottom. It says expected CSS curly brace expected. So it doesn't really tell me what I did wrong, but it tells me something is wrong because it thinks I'm doing something different now. Also down here, if you click on this thing down here way at the bottom where it says error and it says 1, that's what it shows me. So if I go up there and get rid of that dot, it goes away. Like, oh, I feel so much better now. I meditated for a while and got rid of that dot. Okay, so that is good. Let's go down here and try a tiny bit of Emmet, and then so let's just do div.container. So I'm gonna go down here to the bottom. So almost to the bottom. I'm gonna go to, actually let's go to the top. Sorry, I'm confusing you guys. Let's go right here after where it says this first paragraph, which is this one, where it says help you code better. And it says help you code better. So I'm gonna just go right here after that and type div.container and then hit tab. So that is the essence of Emmet. So I typed a short little piece of code, basically a shortcut. I said div.container, and it wrote all that for me. So it will save you a lot of typing, actually, if you use Emmet. I'm going to get rid of that because it doesn't make sense to have that container there. Actually, I'll leave it. Let's put test in there. I'm just going to type test in between there so you can see it. There it is. So there's a container called, or there's a div. This is a div is a division. It has a class of container. In between the opening tag and the closing tag, I put test, and that's why that shows up. I know this doesn't mean much at this point, but I wanted you to see how that works. So that is how you can use Emmet to type things quicker. You guys can use that as much as you want. Emmet, you're going to have to learn it kind of. I'm not going to be typing in Emmet most of the time. There is a video about Emmet, but most of the time I'm just going to be typing manually, or I would say div, or I would say bracket div, and then closing bracket, and it would type that. So it does do the autocomplete. Let me do that again just so you guys can see it. I'm going to type left bracket div, and then the right bracket, and then it puts the cursor in between, and I'll say test2. And now there's another div called test2. It doesn't have this class on it, so it doesn't look the same. But that's how we're going to do things mostly in most of the videos is type it out. Even though it's typing, VS Code typed that for me. All I typed was this. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And we have autosave on, so this is all saved. Maybe I'll have you guys turn this in. You'll see. Look at the instructions. Couple of shortcuts. There's tons of shortcuts, of course. To save your file, it's Control S or Command S. Autosave also saves your file, but if you're using Prettier and you want it to format, you can explicitly do it. Just do Command S or Control S, and it will format using Prettier. There also are some shortcuts for Prettier there. It's Shift Alt F or Shift Option F. Oh, the command palette, I didn't show you that. Oh, and command and commenting and uncommenting lines. I'll show you that now because I may not show you later. So commenting lines. So I'm going to do command and /. So it's control on a PC or command on a Mac and then /. What that does is it comments out that code, meaning this is now not seen by the browser. Well, it's seen by the browser, but it's ignored. So it turns green, and that means it's not going to show up. It's kind of disappeared. It's hidden. So code hinting or commenting code is a good way to turn things on and off. You can also leave notes for yourself. Hey, Mark, you need to wash the dishes, whatever you want to put inside there. But this is the actual code. And you'll see this in another video for sure. It's left bracket, exclamation mark, dash, dash, and then dash, dash, right bracket. Everything in between there becomes turned off. It becomes a comment. So that is command or control /. I'm just doing it back and forth just for no good reason there. I think that is, the command palette. Last thing. There is a lot of people like to use VS Code using the keyboard and not using the mouse because they're really cool, and they don't need to use a mouse because they're really cool. So they can do Command Shift P. That opens the command palette, and then you can, it's also hinted, so you can start typing something or putting commands and get to it directly instead of going to a menu or using a mouse. We won't use that a whole lot, but a lot of people do use it all the time. But that's the command palette. It's Command or Control, Shift, and P. Okay, I think that is about it. So sorry if that was a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to give you guys some exposure to VS Code and the extensions that you probably should install. I would install at least those 3 extensions for sure for the class. You can add more if you want to. I'm not a dictator or anything. If you want to, you can add some more. And then I just wanted to show you last thing. A lot of times when you turn things in, I'm going to have you zip the folder. So you're going to turn the whole folder and not just individual files most of the time. To do that, I'm on a Mac, but it's kind of the same thing on a PC. I'm just going to right click and say compress. And then I get what's called a zip file, .zip. That's what you turn in. That's all there is to it. I should have put my name on it before, but pretending if I'm turning it in. But that's how that works. Instead of you trying to turn in a whole folder, which you can't inside Canvas, or separate files, which will mess things up, just turn in that folder by right-clicking and compressing it. I think on a PC it says send to or something like that. All right, that is plenty. So hopefully that helps a little bit with VS Code, and I will talk to you again later.